From Kansas State University, this is Agriculture Today. Eric Atkinson with you. And for you today, an extended visit with K-State's Jaymelynn Farney, discussing the importance of vitamin supplementation for the beef cow herd ahead of spring calving. She'll talk about the primary requirements of vitamins A and E, how they impact calving success and serve as a deterrent for scours disease in newborn calves. She'll also talk about the amounts of those vitamins required for cows and heifers and how to match up vitamin supplementation with the vitamin content in the forages those females are consuming heading into calving. Jaymelynn takes all of that up with us next. And later on, with his weekly commentary on life in rural Kansas, K-State's Gus van Der Hoeven. That's what's coming up on this Agriculture Today. You are tuned in to the K-State Radio Network and Agriculture Today. Thanks again for being along with us. Well, many, if not most, of you cow-calf producers will be eyeing another calving season soon. And we talk about prepping for that calving season and what management will lead to greater success there. Here's an angle that you should give attention to, along with everything else, and that is the vitamins that are being received by those cows and heifers as they approach calving time. Joining us now is Jaymelynn Farney. Jaymelynn, as you know, is a beef systems specialist with K-State Research and Extension. We talk about many inputs here as far as cow-calf management. Vitamins and vitamin supplementation might be worth another look, you say, Jaymelynn.
Yes, sir. And you might be wondering, why are we even concerned about it? I've never had to worry about it. It's always been in my mineral, no big deal. Well, those of you who've been buying minerals in the past, especially the complete minerals that include your vitamin packs for the past several years, you've noticed quite a hike in cost. Well, vitamins are one of the expensive components of that. And, it used to be real cheap, so we'd feed 100 to 150% of cow requirements year round through our free choice mineral. But now we might want to think about strategic supplementation of the important vitamins.
As we look at the cow herd, be it cows, be it heifers, what vitamins are necessary here? And you can select from any number of those, can you not?
Yes, sir. And there's 6 main vitamins, big categories that we talk about. We've got your A, D, E, K, B, and C. Now, I first want to start off by saying of those 6, 2 really are the only ones that need to be supplied at a high concentration in the adult ruminant, in that mature ruminant. Those are A and E. D, it's important. It's needed to help with calcium and phosphorus absorption. And in feedlot rations, it helps with calcium metabolism. But if your animals have access to sunlight, a mature ruminant should make the appropriate vitamin D that they need. So that's not necessarily something you directly have to buy. However, most mineral or vitamin packs come as an ADE mix. Mm-hmm. K, B, and C, they all are naturally made by the rumen microbes. The rumen microbes synthesize them in the mature animal. The only class of livestock that seem to be benefit receiving supplementation, and most of the time it's via injectable B vitamins in particular, is that pre-ruminant. And so just wanted to bring that up, that when you're looking at your feed label, if all you see are A, D, and E, that's because that's all we really need to be feeding to the mature animal. Now, I've mentioned that A and E are the most important ones. They are both involved in health and immunity, but also vitamin A, and this is where it becomes really important to talk about it as we're getting ready for calving season. It helps minimize calf scours, which, that's the number one neonatal death loss in our beef cattle operations. But it also helps those cows be able to slick up after they calve. You don't have near the retained placenta in those animals if you have appropriate vitamin A. Vitamin E is also really important to help with selenium absorption. And, most people recognize the importance of selenium when you're getting back into your breeding season.
that's why these two are needed then. What determines then, Jaymelynn, how much of a supplemental A or E or both is required? What factors weave into that?
Well, there's dietary requirements based on stage of production of the animal. So, your dry pregnant cow, that's the one that has, the lowest requirement for vitamin A. And, this is a radio program, so I'm not going to tell you exactly how much they need, but you just think about it. The lactating cow and breeding bulls, they require more than the dry pregnant cow does. Your feedlot calves, they have about what a dry pregnant cow needs. But if you want to prevent calf scours, that is where I am going to go ahead and give you one number. You need about 30 to 45,000 international units per day of vitamin A to help minimize those issues. Now, I want to go ahead and bring up another little part about the vitamin A that I might not have mentioned earlier. We talked about the importance of it, but more people are concerned about the deficiencies or issues we see with the vitamin A. One of those, as we're getting ready for calving, is weak calf syndrome. That is the most classic symptom of vitamin A issues. Those calves just aren't thrifty. If they do get up and nurse, the cow's colostrum's pretty low quality. And that's where the vitamin A helps with higher quality colostrum. And so those calves just are set back for the entire life if they do make it past birth. And in the past several years, and I got this data from Dr. Hanslacek at the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, they have been seeing that in those weak calf syndrome issues, when they've done serum samples on those calves that have died, or in those suspected weak calf syndrome issues, 91% of those calves were deficient in vitamin A off of that serum analysis. And I'm not going to go into, serum versus liver, which is better or whatnot. But when you do have a liver analysis, they saw that 53% of those calves in the weak calf syndrome were deficient in vitamin A. So it really was leading to some concerns and issues that we saw with the amount of supplementation that they needed. So when I mentioned that, to prevent the calf scours and the weak calf syndrome, you needed that 30,000 to 45,000 international units per day. What does that mean when you actually are trying to go out and feed that?
How does that break down into layman's terms, so to speak?
Yes. And so roughly when you go to read on that mineral tag, they should tell you what is the estimated consumption or what you want the consumption per head to be each day. So if you say have a dry pregnant cow that is 1,400 pounds, if you have a mineral that's set for a consumption at 4 ounces per head per day, on that feed label, you want their vitamin E to be about 151,000 international units. So that's what you want it to see on that 4 ounce per day. If you just have a 2 ounce per head per day, it needs to be twice that because they're eating half the amount. So that's kind of the layman's numbers of what you're looking for.
When thinking about, again, and we'll expand on this, strategic supplementation, though, for the most economic administration of those vitamins, other things have to come in here, including the forages you're already providing to the herd?
That is true. And, and this is where in most other years, we really don't see a lot of weak calf issues. There's some flexibility or leeway that we have in the vitamin A. And one of those is our sources of vitamin A. There's quite a few of them out there. Legumes, alfalfa in particular, can be a very high source of vitamin A, assuming that it is current year hay crop put up really well. And we can get into vitamin A disappearance, which we need to later on. Mm-hmm. But alfalfa can be a source of some vitamin A. Anything that's lush, leafy, green forage has a lot of vitamin A. Like our Flint Hills grass in Kansas during the summer, it's offering 10 to 15 times the vitamin A requirements that a cow needs, even a lactating cow during that time frame. our winter cover crops that are growing right now, they are very high in vitamin A. So anything that's lush, leafy, and green has really high vitamin A. Yellow corn, the vitamin A precursor is called keratin. Yellow is keratin. So your yellow corn has a little bit of vitamin A in it as well. And so off of your diet, you can get quite a bit of vitamin A. Conversely, if your animals are on dry, dormant forage, they're essentially getting no vitamin A at that time. So you need to make sure that there's an appropriate amount of vitamin A supplementation to those cows at that time. Now, I'd mentioned about the leeway perspective. Well, luckily, during times of excessive vitamin A supply, cows store vitamin A and E, as well as D. They're all fat-soluble vitamins. They store them in their liver. And then when they go to periods of low vitamin A supply through their daily intake, they can mobilize those vitamins to be able to help meet requirements. So if you know what your cattle have had access to, you may have 2 to 4 months of vitamin A storage in them. However, if they are deficient, come from a deficient area of vitamin A, then it is really hard to get them back up to that level. And we've seen that in feedlot studies.
All right. Well, there is more to this topic of vitamin supplementation, pre-calving for beef cows and heifers, including how far in advance to make those vitamins available to the herd. And we'll pick up on that and more after this break, Jaymelynn. Visiting here with Jaymelynn Farney of K-State Research and Extension. And we'll be back in a moment on Agriculture Today. You're listening to Agriculture Today, and resuming our discussion now of the vitamin needs of beef cows and heifers approaching the spring calving season and the degree of vitamin supplementation that may be needed to avert cow and calf health problems post-calving, scours being one of those potentials, while at the same time thinking economically here, as the price tag for those vitamins has continued to swell in recent years. Again, along with us, Jaymelynn Farney, Beef Systems Specialist, K-State Research and Extension. Jaymelynn is based in southeast Kansas. And as noted earlier, focusing on 2 vitamins, A and E. And as part of good management here, one must account for the likely vitamin content in the forages that those females have been and are consuming. And considering harvested forages now, you hinted at this, Jaymelynn, that if that forage has been stored for an extended period of time, one might want to not presume too much as far as the vitamin content remaining in that forage. You might elaborate.
Yes, sir. And there's been several studies, and they're getting a little dated, but it's still, they have found that in forages, within 3 months in alfalfa, you can have 20% the original amount of vitamin A that you had when you put it up green. There is a tremendous amount of degradation in your vitamins. And that's also seen in your free choice mineral and your blocks. So if you're, back into our forage, our hay deal, if you're feeding 2-year-old hay, I would just say there's no vitamin A that's available to those animals. So if you're feeding alfalfa, even, we've seen some of the research 7 months later, there's only 10% of the original vitamin A amount. And that's similar in fescue, wheat, ryegrass, just about all your forages that had any accumulation of vitamin A, it disappears or degrades over time. Now, interestingly, I'd mentioned on the free choice mineral, we have seen that there's a lot of external factors that influence our commercial vitamin stability. Temperature, humidity, light, oxygen, and acidic pH can all impact vitamin A stability, So if you buy your mineral over the summer and have it stored in a barn that's hot, you've got a whammy of humidity that is not, degrading some of that vitamin A that was initially in there. So that's why I recommend when you're looking at your mineral tag, there is a manufactured date on that tag. You really don't want to be feeding or expecting the amount of vitamin A that was made in there to be there 6 months later. So, really kind of having a new manufactured mineral about every 6 months is a good idea. And there's even been some research that found that what else that vitamin A and E were mixed with in those commercial supplements can impact the rate of degradation. And so, if you think about the just vitamin stock by itself, you've got your A, D, and E, and then you put it in your premix with your calcium and phos. You can lose 3.5% per month by mixing that vitamin A in with your other minerals. If it was with organic trace minerals, you get another, it's about 3% per month loss in your vitamin A. But if it's with inorganic trace minerals, it's close to 9% per month loss of your vitamin A. So that 6 months just gives you a good cushion. You could maybe play and stretch it out for a year, but, keeping it fresher is going to help you reduce the amount of issues that you have with your vitamin A degradation.
So there is a host of things to keep in mind here as one is striving for efficiency in that vitamin supplementation while not leaving the cow or heifer short of their needs in that light. So what pulls this all together as far as management, do you think, Jaymelynn? What do producers need to concentrate on?
So if you are looking to shave a little bit of bucks off of your expenses on your cow herd, which we all need to, who doesn't want to be more efficient, you can do what we're talking about, that strategic supplementation. And this is where I like the 6-month rule. You kind of have a 6-month mineral made for whatever forage base you have is in its growing phase. And then a different 6-month mineral that is when your forage base is dormant. And during that lush growing phase, you can reduce to maybe even eliminate most of your vitamins during that time frame. But when you're in that dormant period, or when you're feeding any harvested forages, you need to make sure you have a supply 100% of your vitamins. And, so that's where that kind of makes it easy for me. You got a 2-mineral program, and you can be able to balance your costs that way. And we really need to make sure for that higher vitamin A concentration, that amount that I'd said for the calf scours, you want to start that at least 45 days prior to your calving season if you want it to help with your calf scour issues. Now, that number, I didn't just pull it out of my hat. It is based off of metabolically what happens in the cow. It takes about 30 days for them to make colostrum. And anybody who's been raising cattle for a while have been noticing we have been constantly selecting higher Cavanese bulls. We are not having calves born at 283 days. Our gestation window is quite a bit shorter. And we have a lot of calves born 2 weeks ahead of time. So that's where, to me, that 45-day buffer comes into effect to make sure you try and get, it'd be better if you started 2 months before you go to calves. So you've got, 15 days in. But if you get that big bolus dose of vitamin A to be made in time for colostrum, then you help reduce your calf scours. And, also having that higher vitamin A through that early part of lactation could be important to help with your calf scours, calf health, but also get those cows back in breeding shape.
What that amounts to then for producers who haven't given this thought yet, but have calving season on the schedule for latter part of February, March, it's high time that they supplement it, is what you're saying, Jaymelynn.
Yes, sir. Get it out to them. And, not only is the vitamin A located in some of our forages and in that free choice mineral. Those are our two most common ones we think about. You have the option of injectable vitamins as well, your A, D, and E. And there's studies from Canada, 4 others at other universities through here, including a Kansas State University one, looking at the length of time that injectable vitamin A essentially was effective. And it was all over the board because it kind of goes back into what was your cow's status pre-injection. But you could have anywhere between 2 weeks up to 3 months of effectiveness on that vitamin A injectable. And, so we're talking about vitamin A is really important, or all your vitamins, but I'd be remiss in not letting you know that it doesn't matter how much vitamins you provide. If your cows are not getting the appropriate amount of protein, energy, phos, zinc, iodine, any of those that are deficient will lead to inefficiencies in your vitamins as well. So you want to make sure you have a balanced nutrition.
Well, a great deal to think about here. We're again imploring of producers to pay attention to the vitamin needs of the calving cows or heifers in advance, and they can turn to information that Kansas State University has pulled together on this very subject. And you have some of that housed at your website, do you not, Jaymelynn?
Yes, sir. We've got several there, and if you wanted to hear me go on longer and longer about it, I have on my podcast, I talk about vitamins in more detail, Dr. J's Beef.
Go to Dr. J's Beef, search for it that way. You'll find that podcast posted a couple of weeks ago. For your time here, Jaymelynn, many thanks. We appreciate the overview of what is a very important topic for cow-calf producers at the present time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric. Glad to be on the program.
She is Jaymelynn Farney, Beef Systems Specialist for K-State Research and Extension. Jaymelynn is based in southeast Kansas for the university. On the importance of strategizing when considering vitamin supplementation for the cow-calf herd, our subject on this part of agriculture today. Just a quick note to squeeze in here. As the spring calving season commences, the Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory here at K-State, to which Jaymelynn referred a few moments ago, is standing ready to assist you producers and your veterinarians in analyzing cow-calf health problems that might turn up, especially of the unusual kind. Learn more about the laboratory's services at its website. Simply search for K-State Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory. You're tuned to the K-State Radio Network. This is Agriculture Today. Stop, look, and listen.
If you don't do it, nothing ever happens.
That's Gus van Der Hoeven of Kansas State University, with comment on life in rural Kansas.
Let me first say that I do not receive any commission for what I'm going to suggest. As a matter of fact, I suggest it just as I have done other years. We're in midwinter. Some days are nice, and others are bitter cold. People who have livestock tend to be outdoors. They seek shelter in a warm pickup or tractor cabs. They are all dressed warm. The other morning I went outside without my coat, with the bucket of ash. It was cool. But wait until spring and summer are here. And mind you, it won't be that long. With that in mind, I suggest we take a close look at the spaces around our homes, our yard. I'm thinking about the front, the sides, and the backyard. I suggest you create an interesting landscape for your family. In the short time we have, I can't tell you all, but remember, there is a landscape designer who can help, or a landscape architect who has interest in residential landscaping. Also, there's a lot of literature available, and that is what wintertime, the long evenings, are good for. Even if you call in the help of a professional, the more you have prepared and thought about it yourself, the better the outcome will be. The argument that it would be expensive does not hold. Good, functional landscape design is an investment. You and your family enjoy the benefit while living there, and if you do sell your home, a well-landscaped home will increase its value and surely will sell faster. The outdoor room is of course a must. If it is a deck or patio, let it be spacious enough to sit together. But making the patio interesting, just like your living room has some artwork on the wall and has windows to look out of, so your patio could be enhanced. Of course, there's plant material, trees, shrubs, ground cover, grasses and flowers to work with. Think about a garden pond with soft trickling water and the splashes of a fish, the arrangement of rocks and water-loving plants. The pond can be an island in the lawn. If there are small children in the family, a pond is a no-no for me. I do not want to handle the responsibility and stress. It doesn't take much water for a small child to drown. But think about feeding and attracting birds. Right now, our feeders are like a McDonald's. Different feeders handle different food and will attract different birds. They're colorful and feel safe if the design is so that it is part of bird habitat. Remember, we too are part of a bird habitat. We are in this all together. That is why a good landscape design, especially for a small yard, is important. The choice and placement of plant material with form, texture and color in mind helps to create that special place. I call it the sense of place, which makes it possible to stay home and be happy. As I said in the beginning, now, with the long dark evenings, it's a good time to start planning.
Gus van Der Hoeven of Kansas State University with his weekly commentary on life in rural Kansas. That brings our Wednesday edition to a close. We thank you, as always, for being along with us. Eric Atkinson here. This has been Agriculture Today over the K-State Radio Network.